It was supposed to be a simple transaction. At least, that's what Elias Ford thought when he stepped into the executive lounge of Whitestone Aviation Group, a jet sales firm that prided itself on discretion, elegance, and exclusivity. The space was all polished marble, high ceilings, dark leather couches, and silence. The kind of silence only rich people were allowed to sit comfortably in. Sleek brokers sipped imported espresso. Gentle jazz played in the background. It was the kind of place that made its money by deciding who looked like money. Elias didn't wear a suit that day. No Rolex, no visible security. Just a black turtleneck, a worn leather jacket, and an air of quiet authority. To the untrained eye, he looked like a mid-level creative director, or a guy who just got lucky in crypto. But in truth, Elias Ford was the founder and CEO of Foresight Analytics, a data intelligence company that had quietly ballooned into a $6.4 billion enterprise in under a decade. He'd landed government contracts, acquired a defense tech firm, and was now stepping into private aviation. Not because he needed to show off, but because his time had become his most precious asset, and he needed a jet. He stepped up to the reception counter, nodding politely at the woman behind it. "Good afternoon," he said. "I'm here to speak with a sales consultant about the Citation Sovereign Plus. I was told over the phone someone would be available today." The receptionist gave him a quick glance, from his plain clothes to his empty hands, and blinked. "I see. Do you have an appointment, sir?" "No," Elias said calmly. "But I called yesterday and was told walk-ins are welcome, as long as consultants aren't fully booked." She smiled tightly. "Let me check." She turned and walked briskly toward a man in a navy blue pinstripe suit, chatting near the espresso machine. They exchanged a few words. The man looked at Elias, raised one eyebrow, and gave the slightest shake of his head. The receptionist returned. "I'm sorry, sir. All of our sales consultants are currently assisting clients. Perhaps you could schedule a visit for later this week?" Elias glanced around the lounge. A couple had just walked in behind him, white, mid-30s, wearing matching Rolexes. Within moments, one of the same consultants who had been busy was greeting them with champagne flutes. Elias looked back at the receptionist, his expression unreadable. "Are you sure no one is free?" he asked. She hesitated. "We generally prioritize our returning clients and verified business leads." That was the moment something changed, not in Elias's face, but no idea that his private equity arm had just secured $600 million in liquidity for strategic acquisitions. No idea that two board members from their parent company were already in discussions with his legal team for unrelated ventures. He was already circling their orbit. They just didn't know it yet. But they would. And when they did, it would be too late to offer him espresso. 2 weeks passed and no one at Whitestone Aviation remembered the man in the turtleneck. Their world went on as usual, leather chairs, crystal glasses, demo flights above cloud lines. Deals were made with CEOs who flaunted billion-dollar smiles and plastic surgeons' hands. Private jets were still symbols after all, symbols of taste, power, and connections. And Elias Ford, he didn't forget. He got busy. Through a quiet web of investment firms and holding companies, Elias began acquiring small chunks of Solera Aero Group, the parent company that owned Whitestone Aviation. At first, it was just 3%, then 8%. By the end of week 3, he had quietly secured 18%, through subsidiaries, blind investment vehicles, and through contacts who owed him favors. Nobody at Whitestone had a clue, but the company board, they were starting to feel the pressure. Elias knew the time was perfect. Solera had overreached in Europe, taken on too much debt, and now had a series of lawsuits brewing over cancelled fleet contracts. Their internal memos leaked. Morale was sinking. Several board members were looking for lifeboats. He offered them one. 1 month to the day. After being turned away from the Whitestone showroom, Elias invited 2 Solera board members to a private dinner on the 61st floor of a midtown skyscraper. They arrived cautiously, unsure why one of the country's most elusive data billionaires wanted to speak with them. Then Elias told them about the day he walked into Whitestone, about the receptionist, about the smirking man who judged his worth based on a turtleneck. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't sound angry. He just told the truth and laid out a plan. "I'm not here to sue anyone," he said calmly. "I'm here to help reshape the business and remove the kind of leadership that assumes wealth is worn, not earned." They exchanged glances, then looked at the folder he slid across the table. Inside were financials, clean, strategic, ruthless. "Within 60 days, Elias said, "we'll have majority control." "And Whitestone?" He leaned back. "It'll have new management, one that doesn't turn away billionaires because they dress like thinkers instead of models." They didn't argue. They signed. And with that, the countdown began. By the 6th week, Whitestone Aviation began hearing whispers. Internal meetings turned tense. Rumors swirled about corporate restructuring. HR quietly updated severance packages. And still, no one quite knew where the winds were blowing. Until the email arrived. A simple memo sent from Solera Aero Group's central office. "Effective immediately, Whitestone Aviation Group is under interim executive review. All senior staff must attend a mandatory briefing Thursday at 9 a.m. Behind closed doors, there was panic. The sales director who had waved off Elias that first day, a man named Richard Pruitt, tried to call in favors. Others reviewed their LinkedIn profiles in private. And then Thursday came. At 9 a.m. sharp, every senior team member gathered in the executive briefing room. Elias walked in, this time in a clean, tailored charcoal gray suit, no jacket, sleeves rolled, calm as ever. He didn't introduce himself. He didn't need to. The new Solera-appointed executive liaison spoke instead. "You all know why we're here. There are going to be changes at Whitestone, starting today. Some of you will be staying, some will not." The room held its breath. Elias finally spoke, slowly, directly. "2 months ago, I walked into this building. I was interested in purchasing a jet. I didn't look like your usual client, and so I was dismissed. You didn't ask what I did. You didn't ask what I built. You didn't even ask my name." He paused. "Instead, you assumed I didn't belong." The silence was suffocating. "Today, I own 72% of Solera Aero Group." Gasps. A pen dropped somewhere. "You see, I don't need to wear your brand of wealth to prove mine. And I don't buy jets anymore. I buy the companies that sell them." He turned to Richard Pruitt. "You're dismissed." Then to the receptionist, who had said nothing cruel but everything cold. "You're welcome to apply for a support role at corporate if you like. But today's your last day here." He didn't stay long after that. Just long enough to leave the new management team, young, diverse, high-performing, standing in his place. And before he exited the room, he turned and said just one more thing. "You judged the man. Now work for him." Then he walked out. Outside, the sun hit the glass walls of the showroom just right. It reflected his image back to him. Sharper, stronger, whole. He had come for a plane, but left with a company. It didn't take long for the headlines to roll in. "Billionaire acquires jet company that refused to serve him." Tech tycoon's silent takeover sends shockwaves through aviation world. From rejection to ownership, Elias Ford's $320 million power move. Social media lit up. Some praised him for the elegance of his response. Others called it a masterclass in patience and strategy. But Elias didn't read the comments. He wasn't interested in revenge. That had never been the point. The real point was that he had turned a moment of insult into a moment of impact. A month later, the company's culture looked radically different. Elias brought in new leadership that valued performance over perception. They expanded their customer approach, launched a Veterans in Tech pilot internship, and partnered with underfunded aviation training schools. And that showroom, the same one that had dismissed him, he had it remodeled. Sleek, yes, but also welcoming. No more champagne service based on appearance. No more assumptions about who belonged. In fact, the receptionist's desk now had a new quote engraved into the front glass. Never underestimate the quiet ones. It became a slogan for the whole brand. One day, Elias returned to the showroom, not for business, just to observe. He watched a young mechanic from a local base come in, covered in oil, interested in a used Cessna. This time, the receptionist smiled and offered him coffee. A sales rep came down the stairs, shook his hand, and asked, "How can I help you today?" Elias smiled to himself and walked back out. He didn't need thanks. He didn't need credit. He had reshaped something broken, not with anger, but with power. Measured, precise, quiet. Just like how he built everything. He drove home that day with the windows down. No private jet in sight. But the sky above was his. The Elias Ingri. Final YouTube message. He didn't yell. He didn't argue. He didn't demand respect. He just watched, waited, and then bought the whole damn building. Thank you for watching. If you want to get more that kind of stories, press like and check out our channel.